guys, how's it going? Today we're going to do some midwinter watering out here in the garden. We're going to be focusing on mostly things that are in containers, and we are going to check on some of those things that we planted really late in the season. Now, if you live in an area where you are under big blankets of snow, this is probably not something you're going to need to worry about, but if you have long dry spells like we've had, it's been a few weeks since we've had any moisture, and we've had quite a lot of wind, it's something that we need to be thinking about. Because I think that most of the time when we have plant loss in the winter from things we've got in containers, it's not because of severity of temperature, it's because they've dried out. And it's something that we check every 2 weeks. Every other Monday, we check on our pots to make sure that they have enough moisture. And so sometimes we can skip some of our containers, especially ones that are maybe in shadier locations. Those tend to dry out less quickly, things that are protected. But then you have to consider, things that are really exposed. Like this one's pretty exposed. This one's getting the brunt of the wind, so it's probably going to dry out faster than others. And then anything that's under cover, like we've got a couple of Japanese maples up in the front of our house that are under the kind of like wraparound, roof around. I don't know, it's like not a patio, but we've got like a little, anyway, it's covered. So those are ones that aren't getting any moisture from the sky that comes down. So those are ones we definitely have to check on. So we've got the boxwood and pansies in this pot right here. If I get in here, look at this. I can like dig around in this pot, and that's not really something that I should ever be able to do in the wintertime. I would rather my soil be a frozen block of ice at this point, not fluffy soil like this. The only times we skip watering containers when we check on them is if they are a solid block of ice, and if you're below freezing and kind of sustaining that, they're not going to really accept any new water. Also, if they already look really wet. If there's already a lot of moisture in there, the goal is not to keep them extra saturated. It's just to keep them moist enough to keep the root system from drying out. So I may have some containers that I get to skip today and some that I need to water. We've done a few videos like this in the past, but I always feel like it bears repeating because it's maybe a good reminder during a time of year that we're not thinking about watering our plants. I struggle to remember. We have to put reminders in our phones to remember to do this chore. When you do go into water, it's not like we're watering like we do in the summertime. We're not watering so much that water will come out the bottom of the pot. We just want to saturate it enough to where it's getting down a decent distance and really keeping that surface area nice and moist. And you want to go all the way around the plant. Don't just water from one angle and water one side of the plant, because the back side of the root ball can dry out, and that can really hurt the plant as well. So you can see I've got my water here. So what we're going to do is take after this one, making sure to give the pansies some water and the boxwood. Not really, soaking it, but giving it a decent amount. All the way around. Oh, that makes me feel better. Like that. And it's just accepting it and sucking it right down. Look at that. It's already gone. And then those things, like I said, that we've planted late in the season, I'm kind of looking around. Not a whole lot in this area, but I do want to check the boxwoods in the formal flower garden. But we're just going to walk around today and water stuff. And when we're done, our treat is going to be to go into the warm greenhouse and start some seeds. And I've got a new seed starting setup that I'm super excited about. So I want to show that to you. So let's take a look at this boxwood. Okay, so this is a little bit different. There is some loose dry soil at the top, but the soil feels very firm down below. So there's some moisture down in there, but there's also some surface roots here. Well, I've kind of exposed them from roughing up the soil, but I don't want those to dry out. So this one, we can do even less water. Whoop! Don't make a mess like me. Let me wash that off. Just so we make sure to keep that surface moist. And I'm just going to go ahead and do it on all of these because they're probably all very similar. These are easy to water because the soil gets all the way around. Now, if you're seeing things like this, look at all those roots. I'm going to go grab some more soil and top dress that right now. Good time of year to spot any problems like that. We don't want any roots exposed. Look at here. We got to part that. So ideally, we would have spotted this issue earlier in the winter and corrected it, but sometimes it just doesn't happen, and we can just fix them along the way. No big deal. The earlier we detect those problems, the better. Oh, doesn't that just make you feel better just looking at it? Oh, I'm out of water. I need to go get more. I was going to settle that soil in. So just so you can compare your own temperatures, we have been, like last night it got down to 20. We've got 3 nights in the mid to high teens coming our way. I think 3 or 4 nights. And then it looks like it's going to be back in the 20s and so on. So it hasn't been too bad here. I mean, given the fact that last year we got down to -6. Being in the high teens isn't bad at all. And gosh, I'm so thankful for all the frost trees we've had put in all over the place. We have water access all over. If you are in the infrastructure stage of planning your garden, make sure to put in this sort of thing, because boy, making it more pleasant to do your chores just makes the whole experience nicer. Okay, I'm gonna check on these roses while we're right here. Again, dry surface, but frozen down beneath. So just a little bit for these. Making sure to go edge to edge. It's accepting it pretty fast for being frozen down below. So it probably needed it. I'm gonna go in with a little extra because of that. If it just pools on the top for a little while, then you know it's frozen way more solid than ours are. And you certainly don't want them to be soggy wet, but I don't think like a little extra water is better than not enough. Okay, we'll do these 2 boxwoods and then we can move on. Need some extra soil in this one. See those roots? Kind of like that the drip tubing is not exposed now too. That looks a lot better. There we go. All right guys, so I'm gonna basically be doing the same thing all around the property. I'm gonna grab a gator, I'm gonna bring my soil with me, and then we'll just stop in each area and water containers. When we get out to the formal flower garden to check on the boxwoods, I'll stop and kind of show you what I'm looking for there for in-ground plants. I skip anything that might need to be just cleared out of a container because it's an annual and won't come back every year. Hey girls. Hey girlies. Treat. I see you liked your melon. Did you like your melon? You got any eggs today? No. You are looking so much better after all your molting. Look at you. Hi, chickies. Still don't want me to pick them up. Fine. Okay, quick break you guys, because I was just watering the semps by the pond and I saw our first snowdrop in bloom. It's not quite open yet, but it's up and there's a little bit of color. So right back here behind our little seating area. Look at that. Oh, so exciting. First bulb blooming. And I saw one more right here. it begins. And at this point, we've got everything around the house and kind of barn area done, except for the 10 pots along the driveway, which I'm going to do right now. Then we need to run to the red barn and do the 2 evergreens flanking the door out there. And then we need to run out, I think, the flower shed. There's a couple boxwoods out there. I'm trying to think of anywhere else. We'll just kind of drive around so we don't miss anything. Okay, we've made it all the way around the property. I think we've watered everything that needs it. The only thing that I skipped that were in containers are the blueberries in the tubs. Those right over there. And those are essentially more like raised beds. They've got a lot of soil in them. The soil goes all the way to the bottom. And there's still like ice crystals on the top of the soil in those. So I skipped those, but everything else got water. So now we're standing out here by the boxwoods in the formal flower garden. And if you take just a glance at the area, it can look pretty dry because our soil is so white. Like, look at that. You would probably look at that and think, oh my gosh, it looks parched. But if you start digging around, oftentimes you can find some moisture, and I can see some moisture right around in here, which is promising. So if we get in here, yeah, see, there's still some moisture in the ground. The soil's holding together. So I'm not too worried about the boxwoods out here for a little while. I mean, you would have to test around each one of them individually to find if there are any that are on the dry side, which there could be. So sometimes it's a good idea on things that were planted really late to just go out and kind of blanket water everything. Also, I forgot to mention, when you are watering in the winter, try to avoid hitting the leaves or the foliage, if at all possible. So water right at root level, right at that soil level, not overhead, and even try to miss. And I hit some of the foliage on some of the plants, but largely I kept them dry. But even the stuff around the base of the plant, try to keep those dry as well. So we'll probably come out within the next week or so, maybe on one of the nicer days. We do have some fairly nice afternoons coming up, I think. Let's see, maybe high 30s. We've had some beautiful days in the high 40s that have just been an absolute gift this fall, or this winter rather. We have 2 afternoons that are going to be 41 this week. So maybe we'll wait until one of those afternoons. We'll drag out the hoses and we'll get all of the boxes out here watered. That sounds much more pleasant than right now, which it is currently 33. And I am ready to go to the greenhouse. Thank goodness for, let me show you. In one pocket, I have a hand warmer. Erin bought these rechargeable hand warmers, I think on Amazon. I don't know anything about them, but boy, it's been nice to have today. Okay, it's a lot warmer in here, and the sun decided to come out. Of course, it comes out right when we're done watering. I'm gonna have to wear my coat for a minute or two until I thaw out a little bit more, but we are gonna be starting 2 varieties of Lysianthus, 3 varieties of Larkspur, and 1 variety of Dusty Miller in this seeds starting setup. And this one, you guys, is a system that I have used before, but had to not use last year because I could not source the paper pots. I could not find them. And I was so bummed. So Ken did a bunch of work and he ended up getting these into our online store. So I'm so excited about it. So I originally got them from Gardener's Supply. They sent some out and I was a little bit skeptical thinking, paper pots, we'll see if they hold up. Well, I was impressed with them. I started some echinacea and some other things. The echinacea is what kind of I remember early in the season. So, we start them like end of January and they sit in their pots all the way until I'm ready to plant them, which is usually sometime in May, sometimes June. So they're sitting there for months and I thought these things are going to fall apart, and they did not. I was really excited. So I used that seed starting method for 2 years. And then last spring I got on their website to order more of these paper pot inserts, which that's one of my favorite parts about this whole thing, is that this is all you have to buy. You don't have to mess around with plastic pots or anything like that. You just need this right here. But it said that they were no longer carrying that product. So we did a little, we asked them and did a little digging, and I think that they started to discontinue them because they were getting some iffy reviews. And I think it's because I didn't explain exactly fully what the product was. That could be it, or maybe I'm just the only one who likes to grow in these. I think they're amazing. So what you've got is this plastic tray full of holes. And I think that maybe this was one of the things that people didn't fully understand, that it doesn't come with a watertight tray, which maybe we could figure out something for that. But you'll want to make sure to put it on a cookie sheet or a boot tray, something like that, that catches water if you've got them inside where you need to protect the surfaces underneath. Oftentimes, and like today, I'll put my tray of larkspur in here and excess water can drip down, and that's totally fine. And many grow light systems, unless you're DIYing it, have solid bottom trays that you're setting your seedling trays on already. So like all of mine do. So they all catch water. And then you have your paper pots right here. And this is the only thing that you have to replace every year, which I absolutely love. And then you've got plastic clips. And the plastic clips, you only need one set of them because it's only just to stretch it out, the paper pots out, and clip it to the side while you're putting soil in. And once the soil's in, you take these off and they'll stay put. And they just clip onto the pots like that, and then you just stretch them over and do that. And then these are so thin, but they're actually double walled. So there's 2 pieces of paper in there. So when you get ready to take your pots apart, even the ones on the interior, you'll be left with a whole paper pot all the way around your root ball. So they're easy to handle once you get them out. So Ken just brought up a bunch of these for us to use this spring. So I'm just thrilled to be able to use these again. One of the things that I do not like about plastic pots, which I use a lot of, you know, like the plastic cell inserts, I hate getting the plants out of them, like having to squeeze this and push them out. Oftentimes by the end of the season, especially if you're using, you know, this size, they're so hard to get out of their containers. It's just a little bit more to monkey with. So anyway, that's why I'm excited about it. We will link them down below if you guys are interested. But yeah, be mindful that they do have holes on the bottom. So put them on something watertight. And yeah, that's really it. Just be mindful of that. Okay, so let's go over our varieties. For Lisianthus, I've only got 2 varieties to start this year. We've got the Voyage 2 First Love. I grew that one last year and I loved it so much. It was white with just the faintest blush of pink. They were so delicate looking. And then the Voyage 2 White Improved, which I thought performed really well for us last year. And I mean, Lisianthus are awesome anyway, in that they last forever, like 2 to 3 weeks in a vase. They look like a rose without being a rose. They're just a really wonderful flower. They do take forever to grow, so you have to start them early. In fact, last year I started some end of November, and I did have earlier flowers off of those. But they'll still be pretty small when I get ready to put them outside. They take a long time to germinate. They stay small forever. Once they hit heat, though, in the summer, they explode. For our Dusty Miller, we've got the New Look variety, which we have grown before. We got the pelleted seeds, so I'm going to use them all up this year. We've got a minimum of 50 seeds, so I'm hoping to fill up a whole tray with these. And then for our Larkspur, we've got Carmine and Smoky Eyes and light pink. And these are a cool season flower, so we'll get these going. In fact, it even says it takes them 14 to 21 days at 55 degrees to germinate, which it stays roughly that temperature in here right now. So I think it's going to be perfect just to leave them in here and let them do their thing. You know, the one other thing to be mindful about these seed trays is that they don't have a humidity dome, and you can use an 11 by 22 humidity dome. It kind of just rests on top of the tray, and that does work. Or you can just put a piece of saran wrap over the top, just loosely over the top, and that works well too. Okay, I'm gonna get everything set up, and I think I'm warm enough to take off my coat. I'm gonna write out my identification tags first before I get all dirty. Okay, we've got our seed starting mix that I'm gonna pour into my potting tray here, and I'm going to lightly moisten it. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to load up our pots. So now that the tray is full of soil, we can take our plastic clips off like that and then use them on the next one. And these are good to go. Oh, I'm so excited. So let's do our Dusty Miller first. And I want to say that these do not need to be covered because they need light. So 8 to 10 weeks before last frost, do not cover seed as light aids germination. A light covering of vermiculite may be used to help maintain moisture. So that's what we're going to do. There we go. Okay, there they are. So I'm going to try to put one in each cell. Okay, Dusty Miller is done. We ended up with 10 extra seeds, so I just doubled up in the last 10 pots. So there's 2 seeds in each pot, and if they should both come up, they can either replace ones that maybe don't come up, or if all of them come up, which would be awesome, we can just separate those and put them in other pots. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, let's plant up our Lisianthus next. Okay, so I just opened up the paper pots a little bit and put my plastic claw thing in there. And then we're just going to clip it to this side. And then we use the other one on the other side. So easy. Oh my gosh. Lisianthus are also one that do need light in order to germinate, so we're just going to surface sow these as well. Easy peasy. Okay, there they are, all done. I brought out a dome just to show you how I do it, how I cover mine. So that it just sits right on top of the soil, and it doesn't cover like 100% of it, but it covers enough of it, especially if you're putting the seed right in the center of the cell, that it does a fine job. I've had really good luck with it. I'm not going to cover the larkspur though. I'm just going to leave those uncovered, but I will cover the Dusty Miller and the Lisianthus when I move them inside. So now I'm just going to take my mister here and just spray all of them down really well. Just kind of settle those seeds into the soil surface. Well, larkspur were 1/4 inch deep, so those are fine. We're just settling the soil here. And the other ones, both were surface sown. Trying to see how long I can get. I pumped the sprayer up about 10, 12 times, trying to see how far I can get. So far, we're going off of 1 charge here. Look at that. Only pumped up the sprayer once. Getting it all done. That's awesome. Okay. So other than taking these 2 trays right here into the studio, we are done. And we'll just wait on these larkspur, and I think they're going to be just really happy with the temperature in here. Larkspur are very easy to direct seed to in the garden. We don't have any water system set up in our formal flower garden yet, and I'm not even sure how or if I'm going to plant the interior. I might just focus on infrastructure and edging and walkways in that area this year. I just don't know. So I decided, you know, since we have these paper pots and we won't be disturbing their roots, let's just start a few in a tray and then I can pop them into a flower bed. And it's much easier to put a plant in a flower bed than it is to direct seed things in there. Because it just becomes a little bit too hard to keep all the seed wet enough until it comes up and all of that business, because we have a different type of drip in flower beds than we do in the cut flower garden. We use drip tape with the emitter holes every 6 inches for cut flowers and that sort of thing when we're planting in rows or planting, you know, more in a mass. And in flower beds, we use the brown drip tube that has a hole every 12 or 18 inches. So the coverage, it just takes a lot longer for the coverage to seep out and it's just harder for seeds. And you guys, that is it for our projects today. I'm so happy to have everything watered in outside. It's supposed to be pretty cold tonight, and it just makes me feel good to know that the plants are going into that hydrated. I think that is just so, so important in the wintertime. And that's what we do down at the garden center. Like when I was working down there, we would, now they're carrying over a lot of their leftover plants if they have any in their hoop house, so they're protected a little bit more, in which case you really have to be diligent with water. It's kind of like with our high tunnel. The only water they're getting is what you give them. So we keep them on a very tight watering schedule even through the winter. But we used to just huddle everything together outside and we'd be out there. One of us would be out there every 2 weeks with the hose and we would just kind of blanket water everything, and things just did really well on that schedule. And it's nice to have some more seeds started, and I just love these paper pots. My goodness. Every once in a while you stumble on one of those things that just makes sense for the way you like to do, you know, something like seed starting. And everybody has their own method in their own way, and it's fun to learn about all those different ways. But boy, this one has just been so nice. So I'm very thrilled with this. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.